spit it out. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?
Special delivery. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?
Special delivery.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, Baltimore. Welcome to the first episode of the Special Delivery with yours truly, Will Hanna. On this show, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to get to a lot of stuff. Of course, it's election season. We're going to be talking to several candidates throughout the election season, all the way up through and past May 14th, which is Election Day. Those y'all should know. We got a pretty good stable guest today. Our first guest is going to be a young lady that I've known for, I probably would dare say, her entire political career, Phylicia Porter. And then we're going to be joined by candidate for City Council President, Shannon Sneed. And then finally, we'll be joined by, last but not least, Yolonda Pulley, who's a candidate for mayor of the city of Baltimore. So before we get into our guests, I want to say to all the listeners, everyone, thank you for paying attention. Thank you for listening to this show. We wanted to be very engaged. You'll be able to call in. The number will be posted. You'll be able to call into the show. Very interactive. You can send messages on Facebook. We'll be doing that as we go on the Baltimore City Voters page. And then also, you can call in. We'll take your calls and we'll take some questions. There's a lot going on in the city of Baltimore. There's a lot going on in Annapolis right now. So a lot of those things we'll get to over the next few weeks. And I'm excited. I'm excited about this new show, this new venue. I want to thank my super producer, Desmond Stinney, for this opportunity as well. So we're excited. And now we're going to get to our first guest. I want to bring in the one, the only Councilwoman Phylicia Porter of the 10th District in Baltimore City.
Yes. Hello.
Good evening, Councilwoman.
Good evening. Good evening.
How are you?
I'm well. I can't complain. Still working. Sitting at this desk answering these emails.
Absolutely. Now you got elected in what year?
So I was elected in December of 2020.
2020. Yeah. So this is so how has your first term in office been?
Oh, it's been exciting. It's been amazing. I know that I did not prepare for it as much as I could have. So when I came into office, I actually shadowed my predecessor once I won the primary full time. And I still wasn't ready. And so this has been a very good learning experience about myself as a leader, about the city of Baltimore, and about how I want to transcend leadership to the next person that will take this place after me.
Absolutely. And so I know you say that with the alluding to maybe term limits, things like that. And so I know that and that's one of the problems that we've seen in Baltimore is how do we prepare the next group of leaders? And you got some of that tutelage, like you said, from I think it was Reisinger.
Yes.
With Ed Reisinger, former Councilman Reisinger. Tell me how that transition was for you.
Yeah, so it was actually a really smooth transition. Just based on my professional experience, I understand how these types of transitions and handoffs are supposed to go. So we're talking about, points of contact within the respective city agencies that can actually get the work done, making sure that we kind of have an effective communication workflow, not only with the administration, but also with community members. I took it upon myself after the primary to actually reach out to each of my competitors to kind of hear their thoughts, because, there are great ideas that happens a lot within these election cycles. And so I took an opportunity to integrate their ideas into my plan and vision for District 10, which was building healthy communities. And that has actually been really smart. That was something that the former councilman actually suggested that I do. But he also kind of instilled with me the mental aspect of being a local city representative. That was probably the biggest learning curve. That actually taught me a lot about myself, what I had to do as far as from a humble humility perspective as a leader, but also finding my voice as a woman, as a young woman, as a young Black woman in the city of Baltimore, in the realm of city politics.
Now, for people that don't know where the 10th district is,
Mhm.
can you give them the boundaries and maybe some points that they may know that's in the 10th district?
Yeah, so the current scheme of the 10th district is Pigtown, Washington Village, and I always like to lead with Pigtown. Being a Baltimore born and bred, I understand the historical aspect of these neighborhoods. So Pigtown, Washington Village, all the way through Mayoral Park, down to Cherry Hill, Westport, Lakeland, then all the way down to Brooklyn and Curtis Bay. So we serve all the way down to the Anne Arundel County line.
Okay, and how many residents are in your district?
Yeah, so each of the 14 councilmatic districts kind of go around about 39 to 41,000. With the most recent redistricting, we kind of made that median of 41,000. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, over the last 4 years, what have you found to be, if you had to name your top 3 most challenging things that are going on in the city right now, what would you say those three things may be? Yeah, so I'm actually going to divide that question into top 3 issues. One, based on city services, the effectiveness of city services down in South Baltimore. I've done a really great job with making sure that city agencies really understand the landscape down here in District 10, but also the effectiveness. And the current CAO and the administration have done, a great job, in my opinion, here down in District 10 to make sure that happens. Number 2 is just the culture of government in the city of Baltimore. That's been a very, very interesting in a good way, interesting dynamic in the city that we are seeing in this election cycle. I believe that there are a lot of great issues that are being talked about, whether they are in their totality. That's the question. And Will, we've talked about that. Yes.
Shout out to those that, are in electoral politics, that are campaigning, talking about these issues, being well-versed about some of the inconsistencies and the constraints of the current government about some of these issues. I think that needs to be talked about. And then lastly, just how people view city government. So the view of city government and just local politics in general, that's probably been like the biggest issue that I think we're seeing in the city now. Okay. Now, when people ask me, and people know that I've known you for some years, right? I've always been one of your biggest supporters. I'm very proud of you, for what you've accomplished over the years. But one thing people always ask me, they say, well, what is it about it? Because I don't know a lot about it. And the first thing I always say, first I say she's very smart. I said she's very smart. So tell our listeners something that they may not know about you, other than you being a council person, but something they may not know about you. Yes, well, I would have to say I am a fierce believer in Baltimore. I think sometimes I'm very quiet. I'm very soft-spoken in respects. If I don't have we'll get to that. I don't have anything to say or anything substantive to the conversation or the discussion, I'm in listening mode only, because I think that as a public servant, as a local elected official, you listen a lot more than you talk. So I would have to say that I'm a fierce defender of Baltimore in all capacities, good, bad, and indifferent. I believe that we have got to this space in the culture and the city of Baltimore, some of it good, some of it bad, and some of it by design, and some of it not by design. But here we are. And I believe that Baltimore can be great, and Baltimore is great. I believe we have opportunities for growth. But I also think that the full total picture needs to be shared when people talk about Baltimore. Because I am a product of Baltimore, I'll say that. Absolutely. Now, some of the hot button issues in Baltimore, we always hear about the crime, we hear about the grime, we hear about some of the issues that are hot right now, like bike lanes and trash and transportation and all those types of DPW, all those types of things. In
interaction with your constituents.
Mhm.
Are they feeling the same thing? That are they feeling those things? Like, I know you're very in tune with your district, so I know you talk to a lot of them. What are their biggest things that they're feeling right now?
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of those issues. Public safety, illegal dumping is a huge issue in District 10. You know, industry, environmental justice issues. So we're hearing all of that in District 10. So one thing I do, just as the type of elected official and leader that I am, I validate your concerns because what you're experiencing is not wrong. It's something that I think we don't do enough of to validate, that validates people's concerns. There are opportunities for growth here in the city of Baltimore, but I also, just me personally, and this is just my personal privilege when I talk to individuals in my district, I remind them that one, I'm here fighting for them. I'm here fighting against those issues, those decades long generational issues that they are experiencing. And I actually make a way incrementally within the last 4 years, making it better. So like, for example, if their issues are DPW not coming to pick up their trash, we're gonna have a conversation with DPW leadership and the CAO to see why that is not happening, and then troubleshooting so that doesn't happen again. And in the district alone, we've had a 40% increase in effectiveness of city services. When you look at the reports that I put out every week, and I take great privilege in doing that because
yes, I don't even live in your district, and I know you're doing your job because I don't even live in your district.
I want people to really understand that, you know, we are at a time and place and manner here. And I'm just doing my part to show people that, you know, it is getting better under my administration. Whether it not be 20 points better, that's the question. But, you know, for me, having documented evaluation of my performance and also opportunities for feedback, because I don't get it right all the time. Having that documented performance, I think, is very important as well.
Now, are we in a place where we can call you Dr. Porter?
Almost.
Yes. I had to throw that in there. Because I always tell people, I say she's very smart. I don't know if you were doing stuff with NASA, you've been doing stuff all for a long time. Yeah. And so the best word that I use to describe you, she's very smart, but she's very diligent.
Oh, thank you.
Very deliberate.
Thank you.
And so people that didn't know you, that may say, well, I don't know much about her, so I don't know if I'm going to go one way or the other. Yeah. I said, well, have you talked to her? I said, because here's the thing. If you haven't talked to Phylicia Porter, you are missing a crown jewel of the Baltimore City Council.
Oh, thank you. And there's so many people, I'll tell you, one person representing 41,000 is not ideal. That is why, for me personally, this ballot initiative discussing the shrinking of the council from 14 to 8, I believe it's very problematic when we talk about the utility and effectiveness of the council offices. And so, not everyone has met me, and that's fine, but I also take an opportunity, if they have not met me, reach out to me. I would love to have the conversation, love to hear your thoughts, love to see how city government, District 10 specifically, can be better. Absolutely.
Now, what are some, in your district, what would you say are some the highlights? Mm-hmm. We always, because one thing we hear about in Baltimore, right? We always hear about the negative. We always hear about the crime. We hear about the shootings. We hear about all of that stuff, but I want to hear the highlights, because there's a lot of, what I say back in the day, we always say there's some good in the hood.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's some good happening in Baltimore. So tell us some of the highlights in your district.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, over the past 4 years, Will, this is something that I know we've grown together about. I am a person that believes in community-based organization, a grassroots effort. So over the past 4 years, we've garnered $1.5 million specifically to 25 community-based organizations just from the mayor's budget alone over these past 4 years. And with that, we've been able to launch district food networks for our seniors down in the Brooklyn Curtis Bay area. We've been able to revitalize community parks over in Gwynns Falls up to the tune of $600,000 matching funds with Congressman Mfume. We've been able to, in Mount Winans, to begin talking about how we can enhance getting more affordable housing in that area to the tune of 150, 200 homes. In Cherry Hill, I mean, just leaps and bounds. We've been able to talk about and discuss how we are growing community empowerment, where they are leading the effort for a $50 million real estate deal from MAG Partners. In Curtis Bay, I mean, it's just, in Curtis Bay, we can talk about them leading the charge on environmental justice issues across the city and kind of taking it to the next step with regard to reaching out to their state level and federal level delegation. And now they have a city council push. I mean, the list can go on and on. I think that when we talk about what's happening in Baltimore, again, telling the full total picture of what's happening, the successes as well as the opportunities for growth, I think are very important. Another thing, in Mayoral Park, it was a large encampment that were happening for at least 5 years that we've been able to secure with CSX to make sure that they don't have persons experiencing homelessness living at that particular encampment. We've been able to garner $116,000 for that community association. So that they can beautification efforts in their community on their main street. These are things that are actively happening within these council's office. And just for me and with the council itself, I'm not an abnormality. There are a lot of great things happening in some of these council districts across the city.
Now, we talk about a lot of different issues and how those you mentioned those partnerships with the federal and state level. Did you have any? I'm trying to get this out right. How difficult or how easy was that process? Because what happens with a lot of districts and a lot of the council districts in the city, you really don't see those relationships, and the people in those districts don't necessarily feel those relationships. But you've been able to cultivate those relationships at the state level, at the federal level, and it's working in your district.
Yes.
So how easy or how hard was it to cultivate those relationships?
So I will tell you, I have a great team. I have a great team of women that breathe day in and day out. They breathe Baltimore, they breathe District 10. So we have created systems and communication, just touch points in my office where we're communicating with our state level partners. We're communicating with our federal level partners, the actual needs of the districts with real world experience. I think that's very important. The local level is kind of that touching of the communities level. The state level, which is still touching of the communities, I believe they need to have personal firsthand experience about what's happening on the ground. And then as you go up to the federal level, I make it very plain for our federal level delegation about the need of bringing back those federal level resources into District 10. I will also say that I have staffed a few principals at the federal level, so I understand the importance of local politics, of local elected officials, and being an engaged local elected official, so that when the call does happen, we are able to move things and really impact the district where we see fit.
Now you've done I'll say a yeoman's work in your first term.
Thank you.
In your first term, and it's a rarity because a lot of people have this misnomer that it takes you to get through your first term to be actually able to get some stuff done. But you have kind of dismissed that and have gotten a lot done with 3.5-4 years.
Yeah.
And so what's next for District 10 in your second term?
Yeah. So what's next for District 10 is really just bringing into the fold the 3 new precincts as it relates to redistricting. So
Mm,
with the redistricting that happened in 2020, I knew that as far as the economic profile of the district, I know that I needed to increase the economic profile of District 10. When we're talking about grocery stores, when we're talking
mhm,
about different kind of community assets, from a business case perspective, they need to see that economic footprint within that respective catchment area. And so that's going to be the next phase of, my tenure on the council, kind of really creating those economic footprints, those community-centered economic footprint and opportunities for Baltimore. Not the Baltimore that, we kind of, just kind of put into a pretty postcard, but I'm talking about the Baltimore that is unseen. I'm talking about the communities in Baltimore that are doing the work, that
mhm.
are, here, and they've lived here their entire lives, and they deserve to have the amenities that we are, where we need to see in other aspects of the city of Baltimore. So in other communities, they have like 4 or 5 grocery stores. I don't even have.
Yes.
And so, what does the system of food policy look like throughout this city? What
Mhm.
does the system of incentives for grocers, community gardens that simply just need an opportunity for a brick and mortar, like Black Yield Institute? What does that look like for? What does that look like for increasing the economic footprint in the city of Baltimore? So that's really what I'm going to be focused on in the next 4 years.
Well, I know one, and I gotta give a shout out to Baltimore City Recs and Parks
Yes.
for a facility that was a dynamic facility. I think it's Middle Branch.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to go there, and actually, those that know me know I have a football team, so my guys come from all over the city to go to Middle Branch to train and work out.
Yes.
But every time I've stepped foot in that facility, it is jam packed with
Yes.
kids, with seniors,
Mhm.
the pool. I mean, all of those things. And I had to really say, 'cause that was a 20 some $million facility.
32 million.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't want to, I didn't want to discount the
No,
effort.
look, we out here. We out here. And I say that because that's tax dollars good at work.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when people say, and I say that because when people say they don't know where their tax dollars are going,
Yes.
or they don't, or where's the accountability?
Yes.
You have something. You have a jewel in Middle Branch in the 10th district. It is probably the most state of the art facility in the city, maybe even in this region.
Yes.
I haven't seen anything like it. So I don't know if you want to expound a little on that.
Yeah, and I will tell you, shout out to Philip Blackwell,
Yes, my
the
God.
manager. Yeah, the manager. We work in lockstep together. When
Mhm.
I shared my vision with him for that rec center before it opened, I shared with him, if my kids want to come to the pool, they need to come to the state of the art pool. If my kids want to play on the best basketball courts, they will have that at this facility. If my kids want to whether they're into robotics, maker spaces, they will have the best and brightest and the state of the art facilities here in this Middle Branch rec center. Mayor Scott was very clear about that. I was very clear about that. And so, yeah, it's definitely Phil and I talk pretty frequently. If I, have any question or any ideas, any residents that have any type of programming into the Middle Branch, they can reach out to me and I reach out to Phil, and then we can get that ball rolling. Mhm.
A lot of people that may not know who Philip Blackwell is.
Oh,
He
yes.
actually played in the NFL for
Yes, he did.
3 different teams. I think he played for the Redskins,
He did.
Steelers, and Carolina Panthers.
Mhm.
But he's a great guy, and I couldn't think of a better person that could run that facility.
Yeah.
He definitely has his pulse in the community. He's even came out and talked to my guys on Zoom, and I mean he's very willing to help guys. So I really just wanted to give him a shout out, and I've always believed in giving people their flowers. Councilwoman Porter, I want to thank you for joining us here in Women's History Month,
Yes.
which is why you're our first guest on the first show
Wow.
in Women's History Month. So you've made Women's History again today.
Okay, cool. I'm glad. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Definitely feel free to invite me again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So Phylicia Porter, I mean, she has really done a lot in this council in a very short time. And a lot of people may not have known who she was until she spoke out against something at the city council. And I wish we had that footage, but we'll have it next time when she comes on. We'll talk about that. Is Shannon up? Okay. So our next guest, and I want to make sure that I introduce her correctly. I have known this young lady probably maybe around 2010, 2011, maybe before that. But I want to bring on former councilwoman and current city council president candidate, the one and only Shannon Sneed.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I still call you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I think I don't know when was it 2009, 2010? Maybe 11.
Working at WJZ, I think it was like 2010.
Yeah. I just ran for delegate. I think I lost by like 250 points I was fourth. I came right behind Bob Robson. And I think you had reached out to me and you said, well, how did you do that? Because I'd only been in Baltimore for like 18 months at the time. I've been back home for 18 months. And you were like, how did you do that? And you came and sat down with me in my office and we said, this is a plan. I said, one thing you need to do is you need to touch everybody in your district at least 3 times. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things. And I remember that first race that you had. And I don't know how many votes you lost by. It was either 11 or 41 or something like that.
13 votes. 13 votes that night. And then when they counted everything, it opened it up to 43.
43. But you have been involved in this city, and on some levels that others haven't. You've seen it from the media side, and you've seen it from the community side. So I want to get to that part, and then we'll lead up to how we got to here today. So what was the most challenging? I'm asking a similar question that I asked Councilwoman Porter, but what was the most challenging thing that you found serving on Baltimore City Council?
I think that you go in and you have this idea that, hey, we want to help in Baltimore City. We want to make sure that the residents of Baltimore City, like someone's advocating for them, like they're getting everything that they need, and we are doing everything that we can as public servants. And the most frustrating part is probably that though everyone is a Democrat, they don't have the same vision as maybe you and your.
True.
And so I think that was the most frustrating part. And then of course, when politics gets in it, like, hey, you didn't vote for my bill for this, or you didn't have my back for this. And I'm like, some stuff is crazy. Absolutely. I would not vote for.
Right.
And so I think that's the most frustrating part. It's like, it's good. It would benefit people. But yet you stand in the way of progress. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So now we fast forward to 2024. Fast forward to 2024, and now you're in a race which I believe is a 3-person race in for city council president. There may be more. I don't want to leave anybody out.
It's no more. The filing deadline has passed, and so there are 3 candidates in this race, I'm going to say, but I'm going to win this race, right? And so we know that, listen, I never grew up saying I wanted to be in politics. I just wanted to always serve my community and tell the stories of my community and make sure that people were exposed who were doing the right thing in our communities, and people who were doing wrong, we make sure that we profile them and let them know. And so I was doing just that through media and telling the stories and writing the stories. And so I always say, I don't know how I got involved in politics. I was just fed up and mad one day. And that's essentially how I was doing the work. I did everything essentially that our community told us to do, right? Go to school, get a good education, and come back to our community. Some people don't ever come back to the community. They leave and never come back. And it's like, nope, I'm past that. And so I never did. Everything that I do was always in my community, from going to church, from volunteering. it was always in Baltimore City giving back. And so I'm like proud of the work that we've done before we even got on the council, before I ran a race for citywide, and before Tom Perez picked me as a lieutenant governor. I was already doing the work, and people always say, and that's what matters. Like, that's what people know me for.
Now, what would you say? What would you say? I'm going to go a little loose right now. What would you say? Something, or tell us something that people wouldn't know about Shannon Sneed. Tell us something that people just wouldn't know, that they may be impressed by.
I feel like I'm an open book. I think it's really hard for, especially years in politics, me on the media, especially me running for lieutenant governor with Tom Perez.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do a background check. It's no secret. They didn't find anything new about me. And they were like, "You sure it's nothing? You don't have anything?" And I'm like, I don't have anything. First of all, I'm a talker. I'm going to tell it myself. And I just believe in sharing our stories. Listen, it was not always easy for my family and I. My mom lost my father when I was very young. My sister had a hole in her heart. So it was a lot of, I would say, a lot of grief in my family because I lost them at such a young age. But my mom was able to like gather us and make sure that we did not miss a day of school, that we did everything that we were supposed to do. And my mom always said, because of her grief, like, if something happens to me, you know, you still go to school, you take care of your sister, you still, you know, do everything that I would want you to do if I was alive. So I feel like because of the village that raised me, my mother and her girlfriends and who I call aunties, and people who stepped in, there's no secrets. Like, it's nothing. It's an open book, and I'm not afraid to tell my story that no, I didn't have a father, that he died young, and my mom struggled. She didn't have a lot of money, but I feel like she did the best on what she had, and she raised us to do the same thing. And that's why I'm like, I'm in my community. People see us in our community. I'm married to a Black man. I'm happy that I'm married to a Black man. I'm happy that I live in a city, and I love that my daughter's in Baltimore City public schools. I mean, we could be anywhere. We could be like the rest of the people and just move out of Baltimore City. But I love city life. I love getting on the train at Penn North. I love heading down to wherever I have to, getting on the bus and heading to Canton. I guess that's what people really don't know, is that we're one household family, and that I get on public transportation. And when I was in the council, I got on public transportation. I feel like it sucks and it should be better. But that's the bottom line of many of our stories here in Baltimore City.
Now, you're running for city council president. What do you feel is your vision for Baltimore? But also, are there any things that you would change or you would install or implement going forward?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like I'm living the change right now, right? I'm a public finance candidate. This is a bill that the citizens of Baltimore City voted for. 75% said they are tired of the pay to play in Baltimore City. I've listened to what the residents of Maryland, of Baltimore City, what they had to say. I use public financing. I have reached out to the constituents in Baltimore City and said, I've done again what you've asked us to do. I'm the only candidate that's using public financing. And to me, that makes a difference. My goal is to make sure that I am in my communities all across Baltimore City and that I'm listening to the residents. And I feel like that's what's missing. So I want to make sure that we actually incorporate, when I'm become the next city council president, actually advocates in each neighborhood in Baltimore City and in each district in Baltimore City that the people pick, because we do so much work over the years, but we never get to actually put the money behind the plans that we do, the charrettes that we do, the cleanups that we do, the people that we went to work in our communities. We never put the money behind it. And this is, listen, we voted for it in 2016, 2017, it might have been, I can't remember the exact date, to not only take away money from the budget, but we get to add money to where we think it should be. And that's a good thing about taking that vote when I was on the council. And so it's like, we want to make sure that we are serving the citizens of Baltimore City and that we're also listening to the citizens in Baltimore City. And I would say that's the difference between the other folks and I'm doing it right from the beginning. I said, we're using public financing. It's going to be harder. It's not going to be easy, but this is what we've done.
So now a lot of people knew you on the council, and they remember you even taking your child to the council in the chambers and things like that, and was very supportive of that. And a lot of issues that came out of that was, where can women do certain things? If you want to understand what I'm saying, like, where can women do certain things? And this being Women's History Month, and this is why I wanted you on this show. How do you feel the women in, not only just on the council, but the women in the city of Baltimore, how they may be impacted or have been impacted by particular legislation at the federal level, city level, when it comes to abortion rights and things like that? What is your stance on those things, and how they impact women?
So I'll keep saying over and over again, the way that I am, the way that I legislate, the way that it plays a big part in my life is because I was raised by a single woman. I saw her struggle. And so the bills that I put in, like the lactation bill, my mother was a single parent. And so she had these 3 daughters. And like I said, my sister was very sick, my older sister, and she died because of a hole in her heart. My mom had to take a lot of time to be with my sister. And so that means my mom didn't make the pay that she thought she was going to make when she had to be there. And then you have these other 2 children, and we got sick. And so that means she missed more time and she missed more money. And so that made me put in the lactation bill to say, when children are like healthy and safe, mom can get to work. That way she'll have the money that she planned on, budgeting at the beginning of the month. She'll have that at the end of the month. If we just are able to make sure that we just have spaces, clean spaces for mothers to lactate in all of our buildings. Another bill that I put in was making sure that we actually did not fire folks whenever we had when we had new contractors come in. And so city trying to save money and give away some of the work I called to just to save $1. I was the one who came and said, we can't keep doing this. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And so if we make sure that each contractor is not fired just because a new contract comes in, then we'll have more of that person will have more money in their pocket. And those things make it different. Most of our households in Baltimore City are headed by single Black women. So if they have the money to do what they need to do to pay their rent or their mortgage, to provide, food and shelter for their children, then we are already ahead of the curve. And so that's what I think about when I'm putting it into bills. How will it affect the everyday parent in Baltimore City?
Now, the role of the city council president also oversees the Board of Estimates.
Yeah.
And it's huge. It's a huge responsibility. What we have seen over the years is, kind of the pay-to-play politics. We've seen that over the years. We've seen contracts and things be awarded. But the thing that a lot of people are concerned about is being good steward of the city's money, of the city's purse. How will you ensure those things and what things may be put in place in your administration to kind of protect and be good stewards of the city's money?
I say how I live my life. That's one of the things that you got to make sure. I've been a good steward of the finances that I've had. I've said over and over again, my mom didn't have a lot of money, but she raised that to actually make do of what we had. And so that's what I've done. And so I'll still make sure that we're not just giving away contracts, and I'm not just looking out for family and friends and people who have donated. And that's why I've decided to do public financing. Public financing, the most that anyone can donate is $150. And I'm not taking any money from developers, businesses. It all comes from individual people. And so I saw it firsthand when I was on the council. I remember we went around saying, hey, we support folks making more $15 minimum wage. And we stood on that. And they said businesses, it wasn't good. The mayor at the time, Mayor Pugh, said, yes, I'll support it. And then when she got into office, she was like, nope, not going to do it. And so it was because Jim Smith and all the other business people said, don't do it, Madam Mayor. This is not a good decision. And she didn't do it. But we know that she said, hey, I'm going to do this. I support this. And so I'm just sick of the pay to play. And that will be the difference of being at the Board of Estimates, that none of these folks, I can say, have given me $6,000 or their son gave me $6,000. It all will come from individual people. And so it will be no pay to play with me.
All right. Well, we're going to close out this segment, but I want you to take about a minute or so just to tell people, tell Baltimore and tell Baltimore City voters why they should support Shannon Sneed for City Council President.
Listen, we want someone who's done the work. We don't want anyone who's new to the job, who's just going to promise a bunch of things. I say, look at what I've done. I put in bills that make a difference. I fought for people who have essentially lived in Baltimore City. I've been on the picket lines. And so I say, take a look and see what I've done when the cameras weren't on me. Take a look and see what I've done and how I acted when I was not in office. And I have never disappeared. So I would ask the people of Baltimore City, my neighbors, to please support me. We have an election coming up on May 14th, and we have early voting between May 2nd and May 9th. And I would say, please reach out to Shannon Sneed, the number 4, Baltimore.com. If anyone has any questions, please go to the website, read more about me. But as a University of Maryland Eastern Shore graduate, go Hawks and a Morgan Bear, go Bears. I would say
Go
that
Bears.
it's right. I would say that it's important because I've done the work. We want people that's actually going to get in and work for the people. And out of all the candidates, I've shown that.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. I always call you Councilwoman. I probably will call you Councilwoman until I can call you Council President.
All right. I'll take it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Shannon Sneed, candidate for City Council President of Baltimore City.
Thank you for having me, and congrats on your new show.
Thank you.
All righty.
So understand that this is what people are going to get a taste of when with this show. This is what they're going to get. They're going to get direct information. They're going to be able to ask questions. And some of the questions that I ask are actually questions that came from residents or that came from other people that wanted to know the information. So this is what we're going to do every week. We're going to have different candidates on. We're going to have different people on, even just residents in the community that just want to have their voice heard and want to be able to say something. So I'm going to go right into our next guest. She is a candidate for Baltimore City Mayor. And without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Yolonda Pulley. Good evening. Can we hear her?
She's muted.
Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you. Nope, we still can't hear you. So, and I'm gonna talk a little bit, Yolanda, while we work through the technical issues. But Ms. Pulley, she actually ran for mayor last election, but she's been one of the most outspoken candidates for mayor, which is why we want to have on this show, because that's what we're about. But has been involved in the community for the last, I would say, 20 plus years. And a lot of people may not know those things, but did we get her? Okay. She's been involved in.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. So I'm going to let you tell your own story, because I probably was like a 20th of the way through it. So without further ado, Yolonda Pulley, candidate for mayor of Baltimore City.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on, and great conversations with the other young ladies. One thing that I can say, especially about Phylicia Porter, she is very accessible. She's very accountable. She's very She if you ask me, a lot of candidates running and a lot of sitting candidates could actually take a page out of her book and actually follow it, because she's definitely approachable. And that's one thing that I can appreciate about her. And one thing about Shannon Sneed, she has always been approachable. She has always been vigilant. And I don't understand why anybody in the 10th district can't say that they don't know who Phylicia Porter is, unless they just don't know how city government is ran, because she's more outspoken than anybody else when it comes down to other council persons inside of City Hall. They're unreachable, but she's always accessible.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about Yolonda Pulley really quick. You're running for mayor, and what would you say is your vision for Baltimore?
My vision for Baltimore would basically is to instill integrity and respect back into City Hall, to connect city government back to the people, because that's where it belongs. We have to stop looking at our public and officials as celebrities and start looking at them as public servants, ones who's supposed to be doing the job, not sitting on stage giving a whole bunch of accolades, not throwing up a whole bunch of I'm going to do, and then you ignore the people. My thing is that the reason why I chose to run for mayor is because we need a public servant. We don't need a celebrity. We need an everyday person, what they call them, an average Joe, who understand people, who knows politics. Right, who knows politics, but understands people. And that's why I chose to run.
Okay. Now, you have a title that people may not be used to hearing, right? We hear about politicians, we hear about, all the other stuff and all the names that people give themselves. You have named yourself a people's titian. Did I get it right? So
it's the people's titian.
People's titian. There you go. People's titian. Now explain to people what that is and what.
Yes, the people's titian.
Now tell people what that is and what it means to you and what it should mean to them.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure if I'm breaking up or you're breaking up.
Okay, so we were talking about the people's titian, right? What does that mean for you? But what does it mean? What should it mean to the people of the city of Baltimore?
So basically, a peopletician means that they understand.
We can hear you. I think she's going up.
Yeah, she's freezing.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There you go. There you go. We can hear
you. So a people's titian understands people. So my job would basically, as a people's titian, is to understand politics, like I said, but know that people come first. So we're people over politics. In order for you to understand the people, you have to be one of the people. And that's what a people's titian is. We understand the dynamics of city government, but we also understand that nothing can get done without the people paying their city taxes, paying whatever they need to pay as far as city government. And that's why you have to do your due diligence to understand that people come first, not politics.
Now I know we're being very nice and cordial here, but I know there's some stuff that we can really get to right where the ghost can get it, right? How people say. Now, we've seen a lot of these candidates forums and been to a lot of these events, and we've seen what they call the top 4 candidates or top 3 candidates or top candidates in anything. But how do you feel about not having the opportunity to fully get your message out in some of these candidate forums?
First of all, there's no such thing as a top candidate. The only way that they consider the top candidate is who takes the special interest money. It's no such thing. We need to get away from that false narrative. It's no such thing as a top candidate.
Right.
It should basically be you should basically run on, integrity, morals, and values versus money. Money will come, but just like Shannon said during hers, this pay to play thing has to stop. It has to come to an end. We're no longer in high school where this is a popularity contest, where what you call it, those names should make a difference. It's we we have to basically get away from the Stockholm syndrome. We have to stop running back to our abusers, which are politicians. They come up with the same blueprint every time, and they always fail the people.
So when are you still there? I'm gonna make sure we didn't lose.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a lot of people may not, and this is why I want this platform to be an opportunity for candidates that may have been somewhat marginalized by the media, right? Because we're not media. This is just a podcast. So we're just bringing people on and have an opportunity to express their concerns, their platform, and what it is that they see for the future of Baltimore City. So I really wanted to bring you on because a lot of people, even a lot of other mayoral candidates have said that Yolonda Pulley is one of the smartest people that are in this race. Yolonda Pulley is very idealistic, has a lot of different ideas on things that we could do better in Baltimore. A lot of other candidates are afraid to say those things, but you're not. And so why do you think that is?
Maybe because I'm tired of, the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. When I used to play nice in the sandbox with other people, Yolanda got ran over top of. But then, you have to find strength. As leaders, sometimes we have to make the hard decisions. You have the decision of whether you're going to be on the menu, or you have the decision to say, well, you want to sit at the table. I don't need their table when I can break their table and build my own. It's so disrespectful that for them to not call on the candidates that sit up there and did the same thing everybody else did to run, and you want to be disrespectful and call out the top so-called 2 or 3 top candidates. That is so disrespectful. Those people just did not wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want to run for mayor because I have feet. They feel like they have a vision and they deserve to be heard. And that's the problem that we have in Baltimore City. It's the disrespect, because at the end of the day, we're still the constituent until we become a mayor or a city council person. We're still your constituents. And we do not deserve the disrespect that media is giving out. But hey, at the end of the day, I get it. They want the ones that they can lay down and play poly porn with, and I'm not willing to do that.
Now, I'm going to ask you something kind of about a little bit about your background, because I was about to tell your story before we got you on. I was going to tell a little bit about it. Tell people something they may not know about what you've done to get to this point. What made you get to this point that said, you know what, I've done all of this work, now I want to run for mayor. So tell people about some of that work you've done over the years.
Right. So, in between elections and, on election, Yolonda Pulley has always been in the streets. We built an organization called People Empowered by the Struggle. It's been in existence since 2008. I've been a tenant advocate for over 25 years, fighting for tenants' rights and responsibilities. I have never left that alone. Even now running for mayor, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still out here fighting for people. I'm fighting for lives. Because children deserve a chance to live, and that's not an opportunity that they seem to be getting these days. Another thing is, well, my father was a Black Panther. I have done nothing but fight my whole life. Whether it was a good fight or a bad fight, we always stood in the fight. We put a 501c3 on our organization in 2020, thinking that was going to make a difference. It didn't. So we're still out here self-funded. We do our own work. We fund our own organization because of the bureaucracy and the red tape that we're not willing to go through. And I'm sick of it. You know, every day that I go out here and I save a life, you know, I done my job at the end of the day. But at the same time, everybody that Yolonda saved or people empowered by the struggle saved, the city gets the credit for it because we just saved a life. We just stopped crime. We just talked somebody off the ledge. We just stopped evictions. So, you know, when you get tired and you get fed up, then that's what you do. And if I'm not with that, if you can't beat them, join them mentality. I'm not doing that. My job is to fight against injustices, to fight against the system. And I'm giving kudos to everybody that's sitting up there saying they did not take the money, because Yolonda is unbought, unbothered, and unbossed. And I will never take their money. And just like they saying, you know, I take the endorsements from the people, and I don't even want a lot of money to do that, because it does not take a lot of money. They just make it seem like you have to have a lot of money to run for these stupid seats. And you know, basically, you know, put it back into the organizations and the systems that set up to fail us. Nobody in Baltimore City should be running for any seat if they don't understand the Black history of Baltimore. We're talking about a Black agenda. We're talking about Black education. We're talking about Black people learning how to thrive and not only survive. Nobody has a platform stronger than mine. I will put my platform up against anybody's.
Yes, indeed. So, Ms. Pulley, here's what I want to do. We're going to close out now, but I want you to take the next 60 to 90 seconds and tell people why they should vote for Yolonda Pulley for mayor of Baltimore City.
A vote for Yolonda is a vote for the people. You know, I'm not a politician. I'm a people's citizen. My job is to protect the individuals and the people that, you know, live in our great city who call this place home. You know, vote for Yolonda because you believe in something different. You want something different. You want something better because you deserve better. You deserve everything that you're getting to. We're the only ones that's talking about reparations. We're the only ones that's talking about, you know, a Black education, having a Black curriculum. We're the only ones that's talking about that. We're the only ones that's saying, you know, our children deserve better. You deserve better. I deserve better. So I need everybody to do their due diligence and look at everybody's platform running, and you make the decision for who you're picking. Because if we keep choosing between the lesser evils, that means that God is not here. So I need everybody to do their due diligence. Look into everybody's platform and make a decisive decision on that based on what they're running for, because every decision that y'all make affect us all for the next 4 years.
At least. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yolonda Pulley. I'm sure we'll talk soon. And we're going to close out the show now. And I'm excited that this has been our first episode of the special delivery here in Baltimore. Yes, this is our first episode. And I was glad to I could not have had a better cast of guests to come on with yourself. I want to thank Councilwoman Porter. I want to thank Council President candidate and former Councilwoman Shannon Sneed. And thank you, Yolonda Pulley, for coming on. I also want to thank the best producer in Baltimore, Desmond Stinney.
Hey,
thank him. Thank him for allowing me to be on this platform on Baltimore City Voters. And so I want to tell our listeners, our followers, that this is what you're going to see for the next however long that we'll be here. So every week, right here at 7 o'clock on Baltimore City Voters, you can join me, Will Hanna, for the special delivery. And we're going to deliver something very special every single week. Thank you. Thank you, Baltimore City. Thank you, Baltimore City Voters. We'll see y'all next week at 7 o'clock here on Baltimore City Voters.
Spit it out. Special delivery.
I want that.
Special delivery.
I need that.
Special delivery.
Can I have that?